You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk. It's a podcast. It's a magazine. No, it's a podzine.
Hi everybody and welcome to another Podzine dated Easter Monday, the 24th of March 2008. Welcome once again to another Podzine, the online audio show for outdoors people everywhere, all around the world. And we'd like to hear from you, actually. Certainly, if you have any comments or feedback regarding the programme, please do drop us a line at info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Or if you're a bit shyer, pop along to the website, if you would, and go to the listener page, and there you will see a Frapper map where you can stick a pin in the world where you're listening and leave me a note. It'd be really interesting to see who's listening and where they're listening. Well, we've got a real smorgasbord of a show for you today. We've got 5 pieces. Andy Howell at the Outdoor Show has been the jolly swagman that he is, has been to see somebody regarding some new camping equipment, Australian style. You can guess what that is. And he's also been following his heart and seeing what's available as regards the outdoor dating scene, speaking to a lady who started a new website there specifically for those that way inclined. I've been speaking to Peter Hancock over on the who's a wildlife consultant actually over on the DEFRA stand regarding traps and poisoning, things that we might witness when we're out and about and unsure which is legal and illegal. And I also go back to the kayak show and speak to Ian Richards from the Open Canoe Association and discuss the benefits of joining that association if you are a paddler. But first, let's start the show and talk slacklines. We saw these at the trade fair at Friedrichshafen last summer, and it was causing quite a stir. It's a line that's strung up between some vertical posts, as it were, and people, it looks like tightrope walking, but it isn't. And they were certainly having an awful lot of fun. So I should imagine you'll start seeing slacklines appearing all over the place. But anyway, I spoke to Jan Kading there, who's an importer and distributor of the Gibbons slacklines, and asked him to explain what slacklining is all about.
Well, slacklining originally was developed in the 70s by people in the US and California, and it comes out of the free climbing scene. It's where people used to use ropes to span a crevasse, and they used it to practice their balance and walk across it, and a bit more of a niche sport, very exclusive, only for these people that do the climbing. Now, in the late 80s, somebody brought it over to Europe. Same thing again. It was still a product that was more or less a line that you spanned somewhere in the mountains and you walked across it. It was very much something that was for one person only, and a very niche sport. Now, what we've done is we've developed the 50mm line, especially to make it easier to walk on. First of all, it's wider. Secondly, due to the width of the line, you can span it only half a meter off the ground. That makes it a lot easier to just try and get on it. Now, the system that we have is also something that we wanted to move away from a system using specialists' knots that you use from sailing or mountaineering to something that anybody can use. 2 parts, a ratchet and a line, and you can set it up in under a minute.
Okay. Now, you say a line, it's actually sort of, as you say, 2 inches thick, 50mm thick, the 50mm wide. The tape, and it looks very similar to sort of tape that you might wrap around a lorry, as it were, but you tell me it's completely different manufacture.
It's a completely different product. It's a lot softer, first of all. Secondly, it's got a lot more flex in it. And we've specifically developed it for slacklining.
Now, there's a difference, isn't there, between slacklining and tightrope walking?
That's very true. Tightrope walking is generally done with a steel, more or less a wire, that is fixed permanently in very much a high space. And it's more something that does not move. It's a very rigid tightrope, as it says. The word says it in itself. So it's not a slackline. It doesn't have the flex. It doesn't allow the movement, and hence it is not a slackline.
Okay. Well, I saw one of these last year in Friedrichshafen in the trade fair, and it was very, very popular there with the trade visitors. Here we are at the outdoors show, and you've got queues of people trying this. I mean, the line is 2-3 feet off the ground. Is obviously there's enough flex in it to make it fun and bounce, but it doesn't. When you're in the middle of the line, it doesn't dip. And you seem to be selling them like hotcakes.
As well, it's very true. I mean, we're quite happy actually with how the way it's going so far. What we wanted to do at this show was something to just keep it very basic, present the product, because the product sells itself. It's very presentable in itself. We wanted people, give them the chance to have a go themselves, find out how much fun it is really and how easy it is. And I mean, the results speak for themselves.
So tell me, how what do people get with the kit, and where can they put it up?
Well, at the moment we're actually in cooperation with Ellis Brigham's. He's a UK retailer who sells our Slacklines in the UK. Otherwise, you can get hold of them via our online shop. Or alternatively, you can come and meet us here at the exhibition.
And what do you actually get in the kit?
Oh, the kit itself consists out of 2 parts. The first part is the ratchet, and the second part is the band. So all you do is, for example, you use 2 trees. You put the ratchet around the tree, the line around the other tree, fix them together and just tighten it up with a ratchet. I mean, it literally takes 1 minute.
And hours of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I actually want to go back myself now and get back on them.
Well, I can see that it's the sort of item that's so simple, but if we're blessed with a good summer, wherever you go in Europe, you're going to see these on corners of car parks, on the beach, in parks, everywhere.
Well, it's actually interesting you say that. We had somebody who mentioned a great analogy with the whole concept. He talked about the way how skateboarding used to be a sport very much niche for very exclusive people who had their long, thin boards. Everybody had their own little thing going. Somebody came along, turned the skateboards into something that was more mass marketable, easier to use, wider skateboards and so on. This is how skateboarding really kicked off, and hopefully we're going to see the same thing with slacklining.
One final question. You haven't told me, how much is this slackline?
We currently have 2 products. We have a 15-meter line that retails at $39.95, or the 25-meter line, which you can get for $59.95, or at the show here for £40.
And Jan has very, very kindly donated a 50-metre slackline as the prize for today's show. So do stay tuned until the end of the programme, and you can find out how to enter that competition and be the coolest, trendiest person on the campsite or wherever you may go this summer. Now, talking about going to interesting places, Mr. Howell, the jolly little swagman that he is, was wandering around the outdoor show looking for interesting products and something new and unusual, and he certainly found it with the Aussie shop. So here he is talking to the person about the product that he was quite excited about.
One of the stands here at the outdoor show that really caught my eye very early on is the Aussie shop, with some very strange looking pieces of kit here that seem to look like cross between a tent and a bivvy bag. But I've got Caroline Sawyer with me from the Aussie shop. Caroline, these are swags. Now, we've all kind of heard a bit about swags through the songs and stuff, but these do look like quite extraordinary bits of kit. So talk us through what a swag is and how it works.
Okay, a swag it's essentially a tent and bed in one. It started its life out about 100 years ago in Australia, whereby all the people looking for work in the bush would have carried around their worldly possessions in a blanket and a tarpaulin, and hence the bedroll kind of concept. But obviously the modern swags have moved on a lot nowadays. They're all made from canvas, ripstop canvas, which is fully waterproof if treated correctly. They all have mattresses, integral mattresses. Essentially, I mean, the good advantage of a swag is that they roll up into a bedroll, and they can be unrolled in seconds and ready to get into, rather than spending, half an hour putting up your tent in the pouring rain.
I mean, obviously, when you think about the traditional swag gear, it was quite heavy, but these are obviously much more lightweight. But how much does one of these single swags weigh, given that it's all in one in a sense?
Okay, it varies. We have a range of 3. The biker swag is extremely lightweight. It doesn't have any poles in it, and that comes in just under 5 kilograms. The Warritor swag has one set of poles, and that comes in just under 8 kilograms. And the Cooler Bar has 2 sets of poles and comes in at just under 10 kilograms when rolled up.
But for that weight, you've got literally everything you need in it, and these are very substantial. So, to replace the light one, you'd be looking normally at a tent, a sleeping pad, and so on. This is everything you need, really.
That's correct. That's why they're so ideal, is because you can roll up your sleeping bag or your duvet and your pillow and keep it within the swag. And also, if you want to keep clothes in there or whatever. But actually, when you're sleeping in at night, there's enough room in there to put your rucksack in with you, which is obviously advantageous for a lot of people.
So, these could be used for hikers and trekkers, but they're also ideal for things like music festivals, I guess, and all kinds of other outdoor partying during the summer.
That's correct. They're so versatile that you can use them for partying rather than kipping on your mate's floor when you've had a few. It's easier just to roll out the swag and get into it, and you're guaranteed a good night's sleep. Also, they're particularly popular with anglers who enjoy night fishing. Or, as you say, people that like to go to Glastonbury and all the pop festivals, because they can literally just be rolled out and left, and you can just climb into them at the end of the day.
Well, you've really got to see these things to understand them, and of course you've got a website like everybody else at the moment. So if you wanted to see these on the web, where would we go?
You'd need to go to our website, which is www.theaussieshop.co.uk.
Okay, well, thanks very much, and certainly worth having a look at. It's something that's got that romance of the old outdoors and Australia legend, but it looks something else, doesn't it?
Thank you very much. Just a point to add as well, we are about to start hiring these out, so you can, from our website, you'll be able to hire and or buy.
So those of you that have liked the idea of going to music festivals and sleeping in a teepee, here's something a little bit new. Be the first to have a swag at Glastonbury.
That's correct.
Okay, Carolyn, thanks very much.
The Podzine.
Regular listeners will remember that I went to the kayak show over in Stoneleigh earlier on in the year and spoke to a number of people there regarding the canoes, kayaks, sea kayaks and open canoes, Canadian canoes. And it was good to see that the Open Canoe enthusiast has their own association. So I had a word with Ian Richards and asked him to explain a little bit more about the history of the Open Canoe Association and what benefits it could bring paddlers.
Okay, it's had two identities in former lives. It's been the Open Canoe Association of Great Britain, and it's been the Canadian Club of Great Britain. But now we're just the Open Canoe Association because we do some European paddling as well.
Okay, so how long has it been going?
We've just had our 50th anniversary last year. We're a national club for open canoeists.
Okay, so tell me a bit more about it. Would you organise social events, or is it training, or what?
A combination of all of that, in that we have one large annual event, which is our annual rally, where the annual general meeting's held. That tends to be the first May bank holiday and includes on-water activities, off-water activities, plus a social element as well. So coaching through the STAR tests, 1, 2, 3, 4 star, aquatic first aid, canoe safety testing and so on. Then there's opportunities to develop campcraft skills, so, using a tarp, cooking on an open fire, those sorts of skills. And then in the evenings, ceilidh band, beer drinking, falling over, all the usual.
All the social things. Excellent. What sort of number of members have you got then?
Well, foot and mouth had a big impact on us, as it did for a lot of the outdoor industry, in that we lost a few members. But we regularly sort of sit around the 250 members mark, and we depend on volunteers anyway, so if we were to grow much bigger than we are, we'd probably have to think about how we keep things sustainable. But yeah, it's lively because we have regional reps networks, and the regional reps are organising local river trips and links with clubs, and then nationally there are events that keep things ticking over nicely.
And I presume it's all based around a website?
Yeah, www.opencanoe.org. And on there there's an events list, there's a chat room, there's lots of opportunity to find out what's going on.
So take somebody who's a complete beginner then, and then they've started to take interest in open canoe activities. They've seen Ray Mears and they like the romance of it all. Is your website and your group, your association, a good place to start for context?
I think so. I mean, generally a lot of people will start off trying to join a canoe club, but a canoe club generally is a kayaking club, and they'll be tolerated in an open boat, but there might not be a thriving section for them. So yes, you can come on our river trips, but do you mind if we put all the coats and butties in your boat? Where we're more about the experience of being on the water, developing skills in that boat. So moving water, river trips, estuary work, it's all part of a range of what we make accessible to members. Depends on what's on people's doorstep, of course.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the one question I did want to talk to you about was water access in the UK is actually much more difficult than I'd realised.
Well, water access in England is more difficult than it is in Scotland, for example, where you have a right to roam. In England, we still have riparian landowners who restrict access. So it's the water is reasonably freely accessible. It's the banks that cause the problem. So, if you're paddling down through somebody's big estate and you fall out of your canoe, they're going to have rights to the river bed, the banks. So you're not going to be able to get out of your boat and do self-rescue.
Really? But you're allowed on the water though. So if you have, a donut situation where the bit at the top and the bit at the bottom you can have access to, but the bit in the middle you can't, you can still go on the water though?
No. If there's the British Canoe Union, which is the sports national governing body, have a network of regional access officers and local access officers, and they negotiate access agreements depending on what other demands there are on that piece of river at that time. So it might be that there are nesting birds, so there are environmental considerations. There might be fishermen who are prepared to pay a lot of money to fish during that week, and if people respect the access agreements, things will move along fine. It's when people have abused and ridden roughshod over them that it's become more difficult. So, if you end up with a group of blokes getting off the river, stripping off to get in the back of the car, causing the villagers offence, having a barbecue, swilling beer down, they're not going to go down so well as somebody who's done the research, checked out the local position, worked out how they're going to earn and keep a welcome. It's a slightly different agenda. So,
that's probably a very good point, really, in the sense that, if nothing else, the association will give people the right sort of advice when they first start off, because I would have fallen into that trap of assuming that once you're on the water it was all free access, as it were, but obviously that's not the case.
No, and different licences are required in different parts of the country as well. So, it might be that British Waterways have certain entitlements, and the Broads Authority and the Environment Agency. The BCU's website and the Access campaign is quite good for finding that stuff out.
And what sort of background do your members have? I've noticed a lot of people seem to be having an equal interest in bushcraft as well as in open canoeing.
Yeah, it's very varied. What we find is an open boat is a very social activity. So, one of the short plastic kayaks that you see around is very much about the individual getting on the wave and playing. An open canoe is more about the whole journey as an experience. So they might be paddling tandem with somebody, so they're communicating. There might be 4 or 5 boats, pull the boats up on a shore, put up tents, light a fire, very communal sense of togetherness. And that has real advantages for me on a day-to-day basis, because I work with teenagers who might not have had the greatest start in life, and that can create an opportunity for them to do something that they've not tried before. It pushes them outside of the comfort zone, but also encourages them to develop those other life skills that are so critical if they're to get on.
And do you find those sort of teenagers and youngsters are taken by surprise at just how enjoyable and rewarding outdoor life can be?
Once they let the guard down, yes, because a hoodie and an iPod can be an awful mask at times, and if people are prepared to try something different, whatever that might be, they can be pleasantly surprised by the experience they have. And I think that we see now increasingly less and less children taking risk, so they don't play out, they don't get the opportunity to go off and be in the outdoors. And that's made play quite sanitised, so they don't take the risk in the private life later on either.
And how have you found the Canoe Expo? First time the show's been here, first time obviously you've been here. What's the response been like?
Response has been good. I mean, the advantage, I suppose, is that anybody coming through the door wants to find out about canoeing and kayaking.
Should people be interested in joining you, or finding out more, obviously, but in joining the association, is it affordable?
Yeah, it's very affordable. An individual membership's £20 a year. So we're, as I say, we don't have great overheads. We try to keep things as affordable as possible. And if people are interested, they can download a membership form off the internet, and that's www.opencanoe.org. And I would encourage anybody to come along to the annual rally on the first May bank holiday each year. This year, 2008, that's going to be at YMCA Lakeside up in the Lake District. And it looks like a good event. It's all shaping up.
So what's happening soon in the great outdoors? The Podzine Diary.
Well, let's scan forward a few weeks and see what's going on into April. And, of course, you can find all the details over on the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk on the What's On Diary page. Well, we mentioned the Highlander Mountain Marathon at the beginning of April, 5th, 6th of April. Let's move forward and see if there's anything else which I've recently added. World Migratory Bird Day. There's something unusual there. On the 10th of April, and the Colin Glen Trust is organising that, so you can get the details there. We've mentioned Walk Islay, but what about Damson Day? In Cumbria, the 19th of April, country craft demonstrations and the assorted ways that you can enjoy damson. Damson gin, or damson wine, damson liqueurs, damson bread, syrups, pies and chocolates. I do quite enjoy the old healthy food front, so why not support that if you can? There's another one over in Kidderminster. Your Food from Plough to Plate, celebrating food and farming year. So that's the 19th and 20th of April. I've mentioned the Peak District Walking Festival before, but there's also the Yorkshire Dales walking as well. Now, there's on the 22nd of April, there is Earth Day in Norfolk. Deepdale Backpackers and Camping will be hosting a whole range of eco-friendly organisations for an Earth Day exhibition about the environment, including environmental technology, installers, advisors and pressure groups will be there as well. That might be interesting to you. One which I hope to be going to is the British Asparagus Festival over in the Fleece at Bretforton in the Vale of Evesham. That's the 23rd of April, and that's on for some time, but that's when it starts. We've mentioned, of course, the 75th anniversary of the Kinder Scout Trespass. Outdoors Magic has got a social on the 25th to 27th of April at Bedgellet, which is hopefully be enjoyable as well. And then we are moving on to the Haltwhistle Spring Walking Festival, which we've mentioned before, the Ashford in the Water Derbyshire Festival we mentioned before on the 26th, 27th of April, and of course the National Bike Show up at the NEC for everything to do with cycling and mountain bikes and BMXs, I'm sure, and that's on the 28th to the 29th of April. If you've got any information or any dates for the diary you'd like me to add to the diary page, it's all free. As if it's a social event and you'd like members of the public or members who are of the general outdoor fraternity to come along, do drop me a line at info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk and we'll add it there.
If you've got any news or events you'd like us to cover on the Podzine, then contact us at The Outdoor Station. The address is info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Bringing you more about the outdoors world. Call our voicemail service now. 020 8133 9434.
When we're out and about, I'm sure we've all seen from time to time traps or perhaps signs of poisoning. And there's a lot of confusion generally over what is legal or illegal trapping and poisoning. And so I took the opportunity while at the Outdoors Show to go to the DEFRA stand where I spoke to Peter Hancock, who's a wildlife consultant, and sought his advice as regards what are the common misconceptions about what can and can't be done to wildlife in this way.
Well, a lot of people think that that they can poison certain species that they're not allowed to. In particular, things like magpies, foxes. People should know these days they shouldn't be poisoning those, but there is still some ignorance out there. So we're trying to help educate people through this campaign. Similarly, there's another part of the public think that no animals can be poisoned, which is wrong, because things like rodents, rats, mice, squirrels, as long as people use the right bait in the right way, it's quite legitimate and legal to poison those. So there can be misconceptions there. And similarly, when you get onto pest control more generally, you get some people who perceive that they don't want to see any animals killed, which is fine, but at the end of the day, people are trying to produce food and crops and keep food in storage clean. So in those situations, there are sometimes it does happen, the pest control has to happen. And what we want to do is make sure that if people are controlling pests, they're doing it the right way.
Obviously, the UK is a big place, and there are different attitudes towards certain things, or different laws in Scotland and England, for example. And people who might be listening to this who do walk regularly may see traps, shall we say, as part of their walk. Can you clarify what people can trap and what they can't trap?
You know, basically, I mean, the trap that people see a lot of in the countryside, particularly in the spring, are things called larsen traps. These are big cage traps that people use for controlling magpies, typically. Because to preserve nesting birds as they perceive it. And when people see these larsen traps, what they should do is, if they're being used properly, i.e. the call bird in there, the magpie that calls in the other birds, it should have shelter, it should have food, it should have water. If it's being looked after properly in that trap, it should be left alone. There's an element of the public who go around letting the call bird out and jumping on these traps, thinking they've saved a magpie's life. Yeah, they could have done, but the temptation then is that the gamekeeper, the farmer, whoever who put the trap there, might be tempted to go back to the older ways of doing things, which is the poisoning, which is indiscriminate, illegal. We just don't want that in the countryside. So better to have proper selective magpie traps than indiscriminate poisoning. And the same with other sorts of traps, things like snares. They're very topical, very controversial. My understanding is in Scotland they have just been banned, but as far as my understanding is in England and Wales, we've still got use of snares. They're designed to hold an animal, not to kill it. We often hear people say about strangling animals to death. The idea of a snare, if it's set properly and used legally, is that it holds an animal by the neck until it can be dispatched humanely. And again, snares must be checked at least once every 24 hours. So if people find a snare with a skeleton in it, for instance, it apparently isn't being checked like that, it's being used illegally, it should be reported to the authorities, the police in that case. So when you see pest control happening, you know, respect it if it's being done properly. If it's not being done properly, report it to the relevant authorities.
And how about these wooden-based traps here? What are they for catching?
Yeah, what you're looking at there is a log with logs, or the logs pitched against it. That's a sort of place where you put a spring trap. It's a lethal trap. People think of spring traps and think of the old gin traps where you just catch animals by the legs and just hold them. That's not what it's about now. The idea of an animal now is you either hold it unharmed, be it in a cage trap or arguably with a snare, or you kill it humanely and instantly. And the idea of some of these traps that you might see, well, you shouldn't actually see them, but you might see a log pile with a hole into it. Don't put your hand in there, because there could be a spring trap in there that's been set for stoats or weasels, or mink, typically, or rats even. And those sort of traps, have strong springs on them and jaws which are designed to
do the job efficiently.
Indeed, yes.
I mean, how have things changed over the last few years in the countryside as regards wildlife and pest control, should we say? Has there been a trend at all that there has been a surge of mink or a surge of stoats or whatever?
No, I mean, if anything, the amount of pest control that's going on has reduced, because as the agricultural manpower has been reduced, there just isn't the manpower to do pest control like they used to. I mean, in the old days, it used to be a common practice was rabbits, rabbit control with ferrets or shooting. There just isn't the people in the countryside now that do that. Similarly with pest control associated with game rearing. There's still an awful lot of game rearing goes on. But what happens now is often that's concentrated in pheasant release pens, for instance, where the birds are very concentrated. They're reared basically intensively from eggs and up to the poult stage. And the gamekeeper will just manage the pests if he needs to, around the pheasant release pens rather than across a massive estate like they used to in the old days. So things like stoats and weasels, whereas in Victorian times they used to be massive. There's like a register, the gamekeepers keep a note of what they catch. And the records show that stoat and weasel catches, for instance, have dropped over the years. And there was initial thoughts, oh dear, it means the population's dropping. Well, reanalysis of that data, when you put into account the amount of effort that goes into controlling those animals, indicates that the numbers haven't changed. It's just the effort is now being concentrated at the pheasant release pens and not across a massive estate. So they're catching less animals, which is desirable. It means those out in the countryside are being left alone.
Okay. Well, if people should see anything that they are concerned about, be it poisons or a whole pile of dead animals together, should we say, or staked out, or anything unusual in their outdoor activities, what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, what we've got is the DEFRA has set up a free phone number, 0800 321 600, which if people call that if they see what they perceive to be illegal poisoning happening in the countryside, as you say, typically staked out bait, a rabbit that's been staked out on the ground in a very unnatural way, or even if they see things like bread spread along a woodland ride, particularly if it's got dead animals, dead birds next to it, crows or foxes or whatever, or dead birds of prey in particular, they're a particular issue and victim of these illegal poisoning, is to ring that free phone number. It's not manned all the time, they might have to leave a message, but in the circumstances where it's DEFRA will investigate and hopefully take it right through to prosecution.
Now, the outdoor show is always a place to see some really interesting innovation, and this one's a fascinating one. One of the problems with us outdoors people is, of course, is finding other like-minded people, particularly if you're single. And I'm here now with Julie Shields, who's had the extraordinary idea of setting up, well, what seems to be a dating agency for people who love the outdoors. Julie, tell us about the Date Outdoors.
Thank you. The Date Outdoors was born to help country-minded and active people to find love with people that are like-minded. So what they can do is they can go on to a more relaxed approach website. It's got a fresh look and feel, and they can go onto the website, search for local outdoor events in their area. We've got an extensive list across the UK, and also they can search for like-minded people that they like the look of in their area too.
So, I mean, that's always a difficult one, isn't it? You know, I mean, previously you've had to, I don't know, put an advert in the classified section of some of the specialist magazines or something, you know, I don't know, 35 living in Rotherham and like rambling or something. But I mean, this is really designed to introduce you to a whole new world of people who have the same kind of range of interests as you. And it's not just walking, is it? You're looking for people who are interested in a whole range of outdoor pursuits. Absolutely. We've got walks planned across the UK. We've also got events like climbing, whitewater rafting. We've got orienteering events, as well as bushcraft and survival skills weekends. So we're actually aiming to do a whole range of events to cover a lot of things that people like to do. The idea is for people to actually get a taster of different events and meet people for friendship or more. We've actually got our first success story already, so that's really nice, and we're all excited about hearing about lots of stories that are happening at the moment. So in other words, you don't just provide a computer dating service, you put on events that are designed to bring people together, but also to get them the opportunity to experience a whole new world of the outdoors and find love at the same time. Absolutely, yes. We have got an online dating site, but it is all about the events and that more relaxed approach. It's fun, it's safe, it gets people out there enjoying life. Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest in this, and you're obviously a relatively new venture. Yes, we started last year. We've got membership growing year on year. We actually work with activity partners throughout the country to promote at more local level, and we've got quite a lot of national promotion going on as well. The website is www.thedateoutdoors.com, and I'd encourage everyone to sign up. It's free to join, and then you can upgrade if you want to. Okay, well, for all of you who are looking for a partner who shares your love of everything from mountain biking to walking to rafting to canoeing, this is the place to come. So how do we find you? Web address?
www.thedateoutdoors.com.
Okay, and all the information is on there.
All the information's on the site, and we look forward to meeting you at an event soon. Thanks, guys.
Well, it's fascinating, and we'll kind of keep in touch. We're interested to see how it goes. Good luck, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Andy Howe once again proving that the Outdoor Station does indeed bring you a wide range of diverse content for your entertainment. Now, last week we said we had a bit of an odd competition. It was an out-of-the-hat type competition for the goodie bag. At the time, I didn't really know what was in the goodie bag because I've been gathering so many things over recent events and so on that I wasn't particularly clear. However, a good few of you did enter the competition in the spirit that it was meant, and I've now compiled the box. We certainly have been given a few items from Alpkit. Those nice folk up at Alpkit have given a frisbee and a head torch, and I'll just reach over to the box here, and in the rest of the box we have got some compressor dry bags, 60 litre bag, we've got a 30 litre bag from DZ, a company called DZ, and they also do a GPS bag which is included as well. They've also got some dry zone gear, which is basically items to stick inside your shoes and boots to dry them out. What else have we got from them? No, from somebody else we've got Body Glide to muscle warming Body Glide, so that's something else, as well as I say the Alpkit bits. Now, several pounds worth, and that'll be shipped out by courier once we have a winner. And let us now press the buttons on the machine and just see which random name is pulled out as the winner for that particular prize. Yes, and we now have a winner. The winner is Paul Room, or Room. Paul Room from Tunbridge Wells in Kent. Congratulations, Paul. Those items will be going off to you this week. You should have them in the next few days. And on to this week's competition. I did mention at the very beginning there that the Jan from Gibbon Slacklines has given us a 50-metre slackline, £60 worth of slackline, which is going to be a fabulous prize and well worth winning. So make sure you enter this one. Once again, it's a out-of-the-hat type of draw, and the question is this: who is the managing director of Gibbon Slacklines? Who is the managing director of Gibbon Slacklines? The answer can be found over on the website gibbon-slacklines.com, and on there you'll also see more details about the slacklining activity, a whole pile of YouTube videos showing some great acrobatics and give you some ideas what you can be using the slackline for. So once again, please make sure you enter the competition. It's an out-of-the-hat competition, and send your entry, that is your name and address, to Slackline Competition at the Outdoors Station. That's Slackline Competition at theoutdoorstation.co.uk. It's an out-of-the-hat competition, free to enter, no age limits, and the sooner you enter, the more chance you might have of being the trendiest person in the outdoors this summer with one of these brand new slacklines. So thanks very much indeed to Gibbon Slacklines for donating the prize. Thanks very much for joining me for the show. I hope you've enjoyed the diversity of it this week. And also to remind you to stay tuned to some more podcasts which will be coming out shortly, where we compile a whole variety of interviews from the Outdoor Show from the NEC this year, which hopefully will be of interest to you. When you do visit the website, it would be lovely to hear from you. So drop us a line if you could at info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk with any feedback you have on the shows. But if you do visit the website, do pop along to the Frapper map and stick your pin in where you're listening. I'd look forward to building up a whole catalogue of people and where they're listening around the world. It'll be fascinating. So until next time, folks, or until the next batch of podcasts, take care, have a good Easter, and have a good week. Bye for now.
This independent programme has been brought to you by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.